The experts said there'd be nobody alive on Iwo Jima because we were off the coast bombarding Iwo Jima for weeks. We had 10 aircraft carriers with us, and those planes were like truck drivers back and forth, dropping bombs, what have you. And the word was out that there was nobody alive on Iwo Jima. But what they did, they waited for the Marines to get on the beach, which they had marked off in squares. All guns were directed from Mount Suribachi, and they created a killing field. When we went into Iwo Jima after our ship was damaged, if anyone saw Private Ryan, this is what we saw, because military weapons aren't kind to bodies. They tear bodies apart, so we were going through heads and arms and legs and what have you. I was on the DE 416-416, the Melvin R. Nauman, which was named after a hero Marine pilot in the Pacifics. We were with 10 carriers. This was the Taffy 3. We were escorting 10 carriers, all the famous carriers: the Grand Old Lady, the Saratoga, the Anzio, the Bismarck Sea, the St. Lo, which was brand new because the original St. Lo was sunk by the very first kamikaze plane in the Philippines. So this is a brand new aircraft carrier. We had 65 planes come at us that night. One hit the St. Lo, which went on the next day back to battle. One hit the Grand Old Lady Saratoga, which returned to the States, to Washington, never to come back again, never returned. 65 came at us, and 5 came directly at our little ship and our aircraft carrier. We knocked 3 down. One we hit was on fire, and it landed on the Anzio, the carrier, and set it on fire. One came directly between our ship and the Bismarck Sea, the carrier, very low over the water, so we couldn't fire at it because it would hit the Bismarck Sea, the carrier, and it went to the rear of the Bismarck Sea, turned around and came right back into the back end of the Bismarck Sea, the stern, and hit the airplane supply. You're talking about hundreds and hundreds of thousands of airplane fuel. So immediately that got on fire, and the whole night sky was just like a big league ball player, just as bright as ball game rather, just as bright as could be. The second one went down the hangar elevator into the hangar deck and caused all kinds of chaos. So the Bismarck Sea was totally on fire. A friend of mine was hit with shrapnel from the torpedo planes on the main deck of the Bismarck Sea, and he actually jumped from the main deck. That's 90 to 100 feet, 9 or 10 stories, and there's nothing in our area that's 10 stories high. And he was wounded and jumped into the water. Our crew, suddenly all the training we had, we went berserk. We're running around like chickens with our heads off. The motor whaleboat, which usually takes a minute to get into the water, which for rescue work, was hanging by the pulleys, and they couldn't get it loose. The motor in the water, the bow or the front of the boat was hanging right from the pulley. I asked my captain, I was up in the pilot house, he was on the bridge, for permission to go down as a first-class petty officer to try to get some kind of order from the deckhands. And on the way down, I picked up one of my best friends from the Radio Shack, Paul Bortniak, another coal cracker like myself, and we went down the main deck. And instead of doing what I promised to do, I ran to the stern, to the depth charges, And I saw men in the water, so I immediately jumped into the water. Immediately. I didn't take my watch off, my shoes off, anything. And as soon as I hit the water, fear arrived. I was thinking about the Pacific is, because the warm water is shark infested, and sharks love young sailors. There was all kinds of explosions, and some captains reported we were being strafed. Not true. It's just the Bismarck Sea actually blowing up. Any ship is nothing but an ammunition barge. The lower level is nothing but when the Arizona got hit, it hit the powder supply, and that picked the Arizona 3 feet off the water and broke it in half. And some of the men were actually vaporized. Right. So the same thing on the Bismarck Sea. Also, I could hear an occasional scream, and gave that credit to the sharks in my imagination. Also, they tell you when a ship goes down, you should get 2 miles away from it, because a big ship can pull you down along with it, and even can pull good-sized boats down. I'm thinking of that right now. Quickly, I'm thinking of everything. And they also say that unless you're 2 miles away, when that ship goes down, and with the powder exploding, you could actually cause an enema that would pull all of your innards out of your body because of the suction, because of I can't think of the right name right now.
Yeah.
But I thought of all that. You can't be a hero without fear. You must have fear first. So I certainly had the fear.
Were you able to get out of the water?
No, I stayed in the water, and as the ship was going down stern first, and then I spotted a young man hanging from the anchor, and he was naked. And we had all our spotlights on him. And Lieutenant Bowen, our gunnery officer, was trying to talk him to let go, because there's men in the water waiting for you. And he'd reply back, I can't swim. I can't swim. And this went over and over again. It must have been shower hour. You know, in the service, everything's by the clock. You eat at a certain time, you don't eat at all. 10 o'clock, you go to bed, whether you're tired or not, and you take a shower at a certain time. And it must have been shower hour when they got hit. And I was almost directly onto that anchor, and this Lieutenant Bowen back and forth and back over and over, and every time he'd scream back. And we must realize on every ship there's young men who can't swim. These are young men, if you get out into harm's way for an invasion, they won't sleep in their bunks at night. They won't take showers. They won't change clothes. And our ship, we had maybe 6 of them. And every so often, the captain would have them taken to the fantail, the back end of the ship, strip them, hose them down with salt water hoses, and scrub them with scrub brushes, and then put clean clothes on them. Oh, shave them, cut their hair. And to us, this was a Roman circus. This was so funny to us. And now that I'm older, I realize how cruel it was to these people. These people were mentally ill, and they needed help, and they should have been assured. That comes with maturity, I suppose.
But were you able to get out of the water, or did you swim?
I stayed in the water until that ship started going down, and I got back aboard my ship, but my attention was totally on that anchor and on the young man. And the last thing I saw was the ship going stern first, like the old loose slips, sink ships, went down exactly like that, slipped beneath the surface. And the last thing I saw was he never let go of the anchor. And this is one of my nightmares today. I was in good health when I got discharged, but mentally, my brother said, you were crazy. He used the word nuts. I needed help. really needed help. And anyone who saw the combat that I saw as a 19-year-old or saw this scene, we needed help, and the help wasn't there for us. When Uncle Sam is through with you, the door slammed behind you until he needed me again for the Korean War and called me back in. I also must tell you that our ship was damaged that night, and we had to go into Iwo Jima for repairs first thing in the morning. And going through the waters in Iwo Jima to see what I saw as a 19-year-old, what happened to those poor Marines. And we had to put the bow on the beach, Yellow Beach, directly below Suribachi. And while the bow was on the beach, we could observe these fighting Marines, going from tunnel to tunnel. That's the reason why so many Japanese survived. It was a sulfur mine at one time. In fact, Iwo Jima means sulfur mine. It means sulfur island, not mine, sulfur island. And they had mines there, and of course the Japanese, with their own hands, connected all those tunnels for supply purposes. In fact, we found shovels. There's nothing left of the shovel except a little piece of the metal part. Everything done by hand. And they were so deep, no matter what we fired, would not hurt them. They survived. In fact, that was the very first island, first invasion, where we lost more men than the Japanese. We had 25,000 casualties. They had 23,000 casualties. And then my love for the Marines at that time is the Navy and Marines never got along. The Marines run the brigs and they crucify the Navy. 3 days of water, 1 day of a meal. They call it piss and punk in the Navy. Three days of water and 1 day of meal, and back to 3 days in water. So if you're in a bar with some Marines, there's bound to be a fight. And the Marines usually start it, and they usually win. But at that time in the morning, suddenly that flag went up. And the day was so brilliantly bright, the sun, and it hit that flag, and the flag just glowed in that sunlight. The Marines took their helmets up. Up until that time, that was a losing battle. They were losing. They start cheering. We start blowing the whistles on the ship. I was 19, and for the very first time, this is my 5th invasion, at 19 it hit me, looking at that flag, why we young kids were so willing to die for that beautiful flag. And we were, and we did. We did die. 400,000 of us never came back. And they're buried all over the world, throughout the Pacific, the islands, throughout Europe. I've been to many of those cemeteries in Europe, including German cemeteries, and the kids who never came back, they'll never be daddies. They'll never go to college. They never got a chance. They're over there. Tears flowed that day.
Yeah.
Tears flowed that day.
Some good men there.
But
yeah.
you had to be with us.
Well, you guys were great. I mean, the greatest generation.
The greatest generation. There's no doubt about it. Pearl Harbor, I was 16 years of age, listening to the radio, and lo and behold, Pearl Harbor was bombed. And I'm wondering, where is Pearl Harbor? Where is the Hawaiian Islands? Why would the Japanese want to bomb us? Watching the movies, I'm an avid reader, reading the books about my heroes, seeing the newscast where everything was positive, the propaganda, developing and creating heroes. I just had to get in. I just was so anxious. I was so afraid the war would be over, and I wanted to get into one battle. And after one battle, that's like a bad marriage. You never want to have another one. So I was in 6 or 7 major engagements all the time throughout the South Pacific.
Yes.
Iwo Jima, Okinawa, which are supposed to be the greatest battles in history. And it depends on the book you're reading, it depends on the author. Normandy would probably be rated just as high, but Iwo Jima, I know the Marines were slaughtered on Iwo Jima. The Japanese waited till the experts said they'd be nobody alive on Iwo Jima because we were off the coast bombarding Iwo Jima for weeks. We had 10 aircraft carriers with us, and those planes were like truck drivers back and forth dropping bombs, what have you. And the word was out that there was nobody alive on Iwo Jima. But what they did, they waited for the Marines to get on the beach, which they had marked off in squares. All guns were directed from Mount Suribachi, and they created a killing field. When we went into Iwo Jima after our ship was damaged, if anyone saw Private Ryan, this is what we saw, because military weapons aren't kind to bodies. They tear bodies apart, so we were going through heads and arms and legs and what have you. We gave the great generation, the next generation, the greatest country that ever existed. Not Egypt, not Greece, not Rome, but we gave you folks the greatest nation that ever existed. Now you should do something about it.
Right.
I'll be talking to a group of high school kids, 3 different schools next week. That's going to be in that talk.
That's great.
It's up to you. What we did, 400,000 of us did, the ultimate sacrifice, and we have a gym filled with white crosses. If you see those white crosses, try to think of 400,000 white crosses who died for you. Not me,
Right.
not him. They died for you so you'd have a better country, but you'd better do something about it.